Hard Knocks last night. There was a lot of sports on last night. I know a lot of people were watching like Brazil versus Colombia, which was a big game. But Hard Knocks is pretty fascinating because it's inside the offseason with the New York Giants. And as anybody here knows, the Giants are obviously
train wreck.
They seem like they're headed that way. Now, maybe it'll go the opposite way, but Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen's the GM, Brian Daboll's the head coach. They're probably in a make or break season, especially because
their seat is very hot.
Well, and the biggest decision the Giants made this offseason was basically to turn the team over to Daniel Jones and away from Saquon Barkley. And what was fascinating was watching the GM, Joe Schoen, have to explain this to Giants owner John Mara. And Mara's a pretty reasoned guy, but it's also pretty clear that Mara really likes Saquon. Listen to this. And
Mara probably knows the truth about the damn quarterback.
Just listen.
Because we're not going to franchise him. Like, it doesn't make any sense to franchise him. So.
Unless you think you can trade him after doing that.
Right. And then could we get something and trade him? What are we really going to get? Unless it got down to like $7 million. And I don't want to offer that because I don't want to be like we disrespected him. There's 31 teams. It only takes one to, maybe be open to doing something. If it doesn't get to that, hey, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to let you hit free agency, find out your market, come back, and let us know if we can match it. If we can, we'll have those discussions.
I mean, in a perfect world, I'd still like to have him back. Until we can prove that we can have a decent offense without him.
Daniel's making a lot of money, and it's the fork. Like, we got to figure out is he the guy? So we got to protect him. We need to put resources there.
Yeah.
We have Waller, Belly, a healthy Wandell, Hyatt, Slayton. We'll have to find a running back, but upgrade the offensive line, give them a chance.
That would force us to take a running back in the high to mid.
Or we can still sign one. There's going to be guys, if we're patient, that end up shaking out. Devin Singletary, who was in Houston, played for $275 this year. Joe Mixon may be a cap casualty, so now you got Saquon, Jacobs, Pollard, Eckler. That's 6 guys right there that are free agents. How many clubs really need running backs where they're going to invest resources in the position? Second week of free agency, I think there'll be some value guys, specifically at the running back position.
Yeah, I wouldn't commit to anything.
B, I watched this live, so I got to take it all in. I imagine that's the first time you've heard it.
Yeah.
Shane's putting.
First of all, the fact that Shane is putting his reputation and everything on the line for Daniel Jones, I'll fire him because of that. I've already seen Daniel Jones. He said basically what that man just told his owner. We're going to get rid of this running back that we're paying about $12, $13 million to. And we need to go spend $85 million to protect this dude that has shown us that he's awful. That's basically what he said. We need to get him offensive line. We got to get him some receivers. We got to get him tight end. And we got to find a running back. So I got to go spend the whole damn salary cap to protect the dude who showed me he's garbage. And then Waller say, I'm out of this joint. I'm done. So they got to get a tight end now for real, too. Because Waller retired, didn't he? Basically, what you told me, we're going to save you 12 to make you have to spend everything you have to make sure this bum that we decided to give this money to has a chance so we can find enough time to find us another job.
B, that explanation to me, and I like Joe Schoen. I think he's good. I think he has, when Ron hired the Martys, I wanted him to hire Joe Schoen because he was in Carolina with them.
After hearing that, I don't know if that would have been a good move.
B, you and I say it all the time. We know enough people in the league. You played in it. A lot of folks make decisions for self-preservation.
Oh, that was a self-preservation decision right
Bro,
there.
you let Saquon go. You try to build up this O-line. DJ sucks. Oh, man, we don't have the quarterback. We got to reset this thing. Let me get a new quarterback. We'll keep it moving. And there were a number of things later in the program where he sat down with what looked like the front office staff and was like, yeah, we're going to let Saquon walk. And the rest of these guys are like, why? Like, what do we have without him? And offensively, I don't know what they have without him. And Saquon got a deal with $26 million guaranteed from the Eagles. His cap number this year is $3.8 million. Devin Singletary, who they signed, his cap number for this year is $3.75.
this is the thing.
Now, there are different deals and there's different long-term structure.
Different deals,
but like this year.
But every team uses the salary cap as an excuse, except the ones that know how to work magic. We watch the Eagles, we watch the Chiefs sign people all the time, and you go, how the hell are they making this work? But we look at, like we were looking at last year here, we couldn't get top-notch people. We had money under the cap, but we couldn't sign nobody because of the salary cap. What it is, there are too many people in the NFL who walk around with their chests out who don't know a damn thing about finances. And they're too egotistical to hire someone who does to let them help them work it out.
Well, what was fascinating that happened later in that episode is, one, you had, I'll use the term lieutenants, like his subordinates. Like he's the GM, but the dudes that work with him, that honestly a healthy work culture allows for real questions, even of your boss, right? Like you got to be able to
I did a thing about that on Monday, where talking about bosses and leaders.
Yeah.
A lot of people are bosses. None of them are leaders, though.
So he handled the conversation with other guys about letting Saquon go, but there were serious questions within that building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he explained his process, why they're going to spend money at the O-line and try to protect everybody. It was just he definitely.
Is it everybody but him understands that Daniel Jones not good?
No, I think Daboll, is in accord with Shane about letting Saquon go. And one thing that Shane said during the program that I found pretty fascinating is the other part about trying to get this done with Saquon is if we tag him and then we try to get a deal done and there's trade. He said, he's like, that process took like 2 years off my life last year because there was just so much public drama. And it seemed like they're just choosing to eschew that. They just don't want to deal with that. And to me, that just felt like, unless you think that impacted the team, that's just like, yo, that's the business you're in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're in a very public line of work.
I don't want to have to do the hard part of my job. I want to do the easy part of my job. That's what that sounds like to me.
I just found it really remarkable for the GM to then tell the owner too. Now, I mean, good for Mara for not maybe putting his foot down and saying we're going a different direction. I don't know. And we're seeing like the sanitized version that the Giants are allowing out. But they allowed out a lot with that. And then when you play it out a couple steps further.
You know what Mara did? He allowed that part to know, when I fire you, that's why I fired you. That's what the hell he said.
But, dude, I think with Shane basically saying how annoying he found the contract squabbling process last year. I mean, when he went through and listed out like the skill talent they had that will handle the overhaul of losing Saquon Barkley, and he's naming Wan'Dale Robinson and Darren Waller. I like Jalen Hyatt. He's a good player at Tennessee, but I don't know what he like. And not to mention Waller has since retired. Mm-hmm. I was like, is that the plan, dude?
Yeah.
And I just he talked at length. I was kind of surprised. He had to know the cameras were on, and he was clearly kind of setting the table for what was to come. Because they showed him, I want to say it was at the Senior Bowl, talking to Dan Morgan, who they all were together in Carolina under Ron 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Billy Beane was there from the Bills too, about, hey, you know, the Brandon Beane, thank you. Billy Beane, Oakland A's. You know, the analytics tell us that backs break down when they're 27. Like, you can look at the numbers. The backs just don't sustain it when they're 27. You look at the wear and tear on their bodies, whatever you want to say. And there is statistics to support that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if an entire generation of football executives decide that something is factual, then that starts to just prove its own truth, because those dudes just stop getting carries.
Yeah.
And then you're not, like, overall, the numbers are just going to dwindle. You know, like.
Yeah. But the whole thing about it is, this is where I'm at with that. Prior to all of this analytical mumbo jumbo, running backs played till 10, 11, 12, 13, 16 years and were damn productive after the 10 years. Now, all of a sudden, just like pitching, okay, let's look at that. People were pitching double headers back in the day, and they played for 15, 20 years. Now, pitchers pitch 5 innings to 7 innings, and they can't get past 4 years without ripping up their damn arm. So, is analytics correct, or analytics making everybody soft asses? Because nobody gets strong enough to be able to carry on like they did in the past when there was no technology. So is technology making the game better or worse?
It's a fair question, but like, I guess my point is you can use statistics to validate just about any argument. Like if you're Joe Schoen and you have to explain why we're letting Saquon go, you point out that last year was the worst YPC of his career.
Yeah,
but
and then he just told you why, because the offensive line sucked.
Right.
And your quarterback couldn't threaten nobody down the field. See, right. Jay, listen, man.
I'm agreeing with you, but like, no, you can make these numbers
you can make
work.
It. That's what I'm saying. That's why whenever someone overly throws stats at me, I'm very dismissive of it, because you can't do one without the other. There are individuals who are built differently than others. So you tell me, I left here and went to Philly for 3 years, and I could put those 3 years after I turned 30 against any 3 years of my career. Why? Because I worked at it. Some people work at it, some people don't. And some coaches, just like we saw every year, last year and the year before and year before that, we saw guys who in their first, second year getting all these veteran days off. Where the hell that come from? Because the way people handle people is making them softer or making them not be able to handle certain levels of pain.
It's pretty clear how I feel about Mike Rizzo. I think he's the best executive in this town since Bobby Beathard. I hope that Adam Peters takes that crown someday. But right now it's Riz, and it's not close. And one thing I think the Nationals organizationally have done so well is they lean heavy on analytics. Mm-hmm. They are not – they absolutely believe in the power of analytics, but they also believe in their scouts. They also believe in their baseball people. They also believe in their eyes. And for me, I think you cannot get so blinded by numbers or some mathematical equation that tells you, you got to move on from this guy because whether it's the contract, the drama surrounding it, or the age, whatever it is, you got to move on because that's what the numbers tell us. At some point, you got to watch your eyes. Saquon was the best player they had.
It seems like
and nobody
Shane
wanted him to leave.
Was more worried about him and his reputation than he was about anything that had to do with the Giants.
I found that fascinating. If you haven't watched it, I'm sure it's on demand. I don't know why HBO is called Max now, but it's on Max. Watch it. It was fascinating. And the fact that Shane is openly talking about letting Saquon go, not to mention he's talking about trading for Brian Burns at the Senior Bowl, which is far before the tampering period. That's kind of interesting.